Hey guys, Dean of DVD here. It's pretty late, but I'm going to do a video on my favorite films, or what I think are the top films of the 1960s. I started out with 2000 to 2009, then I did the 90s, then the 80s, then recently the 70s. Now I'm to the 60s, and the first one is going to be a tie for a couple reasons. I see some similarities from an acting standpoint anyway. And I just want both these in there. So what we've got is The Hustler with Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason as Minnesota Fats. What a great movie this is. Black and white, just, gritty pool room, struggling with this guy Fast Eddie Folsom as he attempts to not only con people across the country, but also win some fame for himself and beat his legend Minnesota Fats. By the way, there was a guy named Minnesota Fats who played pool for real. And a lot of people think that the Minnesota Fats in this movie was based on that guy's life. Not true. In fact, that guy was called like New York Fats or something, and then he changed his name to Minnesota Fats after this movie. Yeah, really had nothing to do with the guy, although he was on TV, and I think he had a TV show for a while playing pool in the probably in the 60s or 70s, I guess. Anyway, nothing to do with this movie. This movie's a classic. Paul Newman, Jackie Gleason, who I love in this movie. I love Jackie Gleason in general, but The Hustler. So that's in at number 5, tied with this one, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Again, this is tied for 5th. I don't see either one of those as being necessarily above the other. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Paul Newman, Robert Redford. What a great pairing this turned out to be. They only make a couple movies together, I think. The Sting and this one. Not sure of another. I think those are the two they made. But what a great duo these guys made. If you haven't seen The Sting, that's another fantastic movie. But Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I saw this one years ago when I was a kid and loved it then. Loved a lot of things about it. Loved the drama. Loved the companionship of these two guys, especially. They just played off each other extremely well. There was comedy in it, but obviously if you know the story, it's not a happy story, but there's a lot of comedy moments in this thing, and they played off each other so well. So Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Hustler, both starring Paul Newman, are my pick for the number 5 movies of the 1960s. Next up, I wasn't going to include this one for a ton of reasons, but I'm going to include it at number 4, The Sound of Music. Now, part of you make your own lists, and I'd like to hear what they are, but for me, I'm not doing anything animated. There are a ton of great animated movies. Certainly the Toy Story franchise is a great animated movie. Pinocchio, one of my favorite movies. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. A lot of the Disney things are just really classics. The Lion King, which I loved, not including anything animated. And I think this is probably the only musical that I'll have in my list. So that'll probably tell you something about some of the ones going back. Unless, all right, I take it back. There's one other movie, and when I get to it, you'll see. You probably can guess it already, but I'm going to wait before I reveal that one. But there's one other musical in my lists that'll come up later on. But anyway, Sound of Music. I wanted to put it in here because I think Julie Andrews has, in my opinion, the voice of an angel. And in this movie, the songs that she does and the performance that she gives was great. And you the kids that are in this thing all gave great performances. Of course, you can list the songs in this thing. I grew up on this thing. My mother, when this thing came out in the theater, I think my mother took people to see it left and right, and then as the movie got older, but she had it on VHS, and we'd have to watch it every so often, and she'd get all the kids together and make popcorn, and we'd come into the living room and all sit down and watch The Sound of Music together. But I think she saw it about a dozen times in the theater, and then subjected me to it I don't know how many times. But when I was a kid, I kind of was lukewarm on it. I liked it when I was younger, but then as I got older, I was lukewarm. But as I get older, I like this movie quite a bit. Sound of Music, Rodgers and Hammerstein. Great songs in this. Wonderful performance by Julie Andrews, and just an amazing vocalist. So this is an homage to Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music. She was in both, and My Fair Lady on the Broadway stage. This woman could sing, and I don't know anybody else who had the range that she had and could really hit those notes. You can talk all you want about Whitney Houston and Celine Dion and Mariah Carey, and I don't know anybody else who supposedly has some great range. This woman could sing. And it's a shame that her vocal cords got ruined with some basic surgery she had, but still, Sound of Music in at number 4. Number 3, for me, is Lawrence of Arabia. Love this movie, and this could easily be, any one of these could be higher, I guess. Given if I watch this tomorrow, maybe I'll move it up to number 1. I don't know. I haven't watched it in a while. This is a great set. I got this years ago at Best Buy when it first came out. I even saved the thing. Even then, I wasn't collecting necessarily, but I was still anal about holding on to stuff. I guess I was a collector. I just didn't know it. 2-disc version. A lot of extras on this. It's got a nice booklet with it. It almost looks like a Criterion type of release in so far as the booklet and the reverence that this film gets. David Lean directed it. Just a wonderful film. If you haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia, you really should. It's a great movie, and Peter O'Toole gives a great performance. It won the 1962 Best Picture Academy Award. It was also up for a variety of others. It's got a ton of special features on this one, including a documentary, the making of, a conversation with Steven Spielberg regarding this film, some original featurettes about the movie. Obviously, DVD-ROM features, the archives of Arabia, historic photographs, an advertising campaign, theatrical trailers. Lots of neat stuff here. So, really like this one. This is digitally mastered audio and anamorphic video, widescreen, 5.1 Dolby digital. It's also got, it's 217 minutes in length, including the overture, the entr'acte, or the entr'acte, I guess it's called, and the exit music. So, 217 minutes, pretty long. That's the movie itself. It's 227 minutes with everything else. But this is a great story of a British officer who ends up getting in Arabia in World War I and leads a strong guerrilla front where they eventually can defeat the Turkish Empire. So, really nice release here. It's almost this is just a picture that's, I guess, glued on. I've got to put a plastic over this thing, but I've had it for years. This is cloth. It's a cloth finish here. You can see it's got some gold. What's, I guess, ink on the back. Yeah. Alec Guinness is in this also. Anthony Quinn, Jose Ferrer. It's got a Claude Rains, Arthur Kennedy, Omar Sharif, and Peter O'Toole in one of his first movie appearances, believe it or not. The guy came out of nowhere and was brilliant in this. Now, up to number 2, and but I'm doing a little bit of an homage here to Stanley Kubrick. He's going to have the number 2 movie, and it could be any number of movies here. You had 2001: A Space Odyssey, of course, was in the 60s. You have Spartacus. You have Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Love the Bomb. Spartacus and Lolita. So any of those could have been certainly in my top 20. But for my number 2 movie, I'm going to pick one that I think you really can't go wrong with, and that is 2001: A Space Odyssey, starring Keir Dullea, but not really, starring Stanley Kubrick. The vision on this thing, he set out to make a movie that was a visual movie that didn't have a lot of dialogue. In fact, it's 25 minutes or so before you get to the first spoken words in this film, and I think they are, and some trivia person here will probably correct me, but it's something like, main level, sir, here we are, please. Spoken in a British accent by a young lady who's controlling what looks like a entire floor where you're seated in things and like an elevator. This movie, the special effects in this thing are out of this world. This is before CGI. There was no computer animation when this thing was made in 60. What was it? 65 maybe, somewhere around there. There just nothing like that. You just didn't have it. Screenplay by Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke. Clarke has said. Here's some images from the movie. You had, of course, the apes and somebody with the bone learning that he could use this tool to club people with. Keir Delay learning what the mission was all about that he's on, and then at the end, the monolith and this rebirth or death scene. The amazing thing about 2001: A Space Odyssey is it's open to so much interpretation that it's difficult to even come away with one firm explanation. But it's an amazing movie, and Stanley Kubrick, for my money, the director of the '60s, and one of my favorite directors of all time. So this collection, I've done a video on this in the past, but I think it's still out there somewhere. But amazing collection of movies here. The Stanley Kubrick limited edition collection that I've got. Just an amazing box set. Highly recommend it. Get a book, and you saw a little bit of the inside there. So that's at number 2. And number 1 is Gregory Peck in To Kill a Mockingbird. Just a wonderful performance. Small town guy, and the film captures the small town so well, and the small town mentality, and it's a story of a man who defends an African American or black man who allegedly has attacked a white girl, and of course, not a very popular thing to defend that person. And that movie just is brilliant, and Gregory Peck does a brilliant job. All right, guys, that's my top 5 for the '60s. What are yours? I know I left out some stuff, but what do you guys think? What did I leave out? What would you have put in? All right, guys, take care. Dino DVD.